Hello, everyone.
Good morning, everybody.
We've got a surprise guest today. We need to thank Joe's dog for waking him up early this morning and getting him onto his couch.
Yeah.
What? That's a good boy right there.
Yeah. So it seems Joe's dog is truly Ergonaut.
Oh, yeah.
He works for the community, that's for sure. Joe, it's good to have you here. What's new? We haven't seen you in forever.
Oh, yeah. These are kind of early my time, so I've been a little lazy, focused elsewhere. Let's see where to start. Well, let's start talking about the Ergo event that we're putting together. So QX and I have been talking for like a year. Like, hey, we should, get the Ergo community together, have a meetup. And so slowly we've been lining up speakers. We've got event space. Right now we're in the process of getting a liquor license. And so I'm hoping that we can put together a nice day where we kind of cover some of the development that's going on in the ecosystems, the security assumption, the idea behind the project, why it matters, etc. Crypto conferences they can be pretty nice, right? But they also can be kind of heavy on the wallet.
That is true, especially if you're an event host, right? Especially if you're a booth holder. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, for a lot of them, it's their business. And I think a lot of events, they do a good job putting together a good show. But barrier of entry is something where, I don't know, sometimes you see the same people, which, I guess is nice in terms of like networking, marketing, etc. But I don't know. I think opening it up, making the barrier of entry lower, we'll sure try to get broadcast online, and it looks like we're going to get a nice lineup of people that we don't always hear from in the Ergo community. MG Pie is going to make it. Sounds like Cheese is going to try to make it. Allison's going to try to make it, and I'm hoping that when the time rolls around, we can highlight some MVPs that people are working on in the ecosystem. Cover some projects, the what, the why, get into kind of why this matters, right? For kind of a peer-to-peer network. It would also be great to, get some, content from other applications of people that are further away. Duck pools is a good example. Australia to Colorado is not exactly quick, but it would be awesome to see, more content from, those, at least that team. I think others as well. With Rosen, let's see, right now we're working on runes and Doge. Sadly, Doge has kind of been kicking our ass because the nodes and, the explorers are pretty tight. It's got some crappy infrastructure, but nobody cares because it's a meme.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And, how discussions with new chains going on? Zano, Kaspa, and so on.
Sure, there's been discussions between our team. We're trying to get them to understand what Rosen is, why it matters. I think one unique, let's say, feature set that Rosen offers is this ability to have kind of like unilateral access for both the network coin and then tokens on top of the network with relatively clear security assumptions. I've always thought the structure of like markets in let's say the crypto space was a little bit weird. It's kind of a gate kept thing where you have people that will, I don't know, it's like let's delist Zcash, which has really done some great work in terms of research and cryptography and kind of like the execution side, and then it's like, hey, let's list Fartcoin. And that kind of tells you, like, the incentives and the alignment are screwy as hell. But I do think that one thing that kind of interests me, right, with this idea of scaling Rosen into new environments, is you do kind of get this situation where you have like non-linear maintenance, right? So as a single team, as we add chains, chains will update periodically. They'll hard fork, infrastructure. Every once in a while, we'll get upgrades, etc. And so, the question has kind of been like, how do we create the right incentives to where we create like external support for maintenance, right? That's actually an interesting question, even with centralized exchanges. A lot of the times, something we've ran into over the years. I'm sure, Kushti has some good stories about that, where, suddenly something's in maintenance mode, and we're saying, "Hey, why is this in maintenance mode?" And then we got to chase down the engineers, and what node are you running, and kind of figure out what's going on. So one thing I've been discussing with MHS, as well as MGPI and kind of our own dev team, is the idea of creating the right incentive alignment, right? To where it's like, if, let's say 3-4 years ago, Ergo heard about this, framework that kind of created cross-chain access. What would it take for us to have the right incentive to build it and maintain it, right? And I think that personally, I'm a fan of this idea of taking a percentage of outbound transactions from new chains, and having them set up some sort of let's say Paideia structure on Ergo, something like that, where if things are properly maintained and functioning, they can potentially earn a percentage, right? And that kind of creates like this, I don't know, let's call it like a future dividend based on their work, based on, keeping everything live, versus kind of the traditional access is, you have a series of meetings with, marketing and managers that probably haven't, I don't know. I'm going to say don't know which end of the hammer to use.
That's a good way to put it, Joe.
But
so how do you scale that, Joe, without without putting too much of a burden on the Rosen team or the guards, to keep an idea of, are they keeping up to date? Are we managing individual people? Is it better to maybe create like dev DAOs on each chain and then have the DAOs manage themselves, and then you withhold money if the DAOs aren't doing a good job? Kind of. Yeah.
I think the simplest way to streamline it would be to keep it on Ergo. We have a lot of the tooling, and also the distribution cost is low, right? So, if you're talking about paying people a regular transaction, we have low transaction fees. Paideia is a nice structure in terms of having something that's like transparent and community oriented. So I think that's a good structure for that. If you create proper open standards, which I think started, I do think that we could improve the Rosen contribution document, but having that public, kind of allows open specifications that, if people can meet, then it's just a matter of review test, which is its own friction point, right? But, it certainly makes the barrier of entry a lot lower than the standard listing, which is, you sign a contract that says we can delist you at any time for any reason. And you need to meet these market metrics, whether that's reality or not. You can figure out how to plug that gap, which is scammy as hell. And then, you also have this idea that then you pass it to engineers that you have no idea what you're actually buying in terms of security, right? The only time I've been able to understand kind of the full exchange stack and what's securing assets is after they get hacked, right? There's always a postmortem and say, well, our 2 or 3 multi-sig failed, and sorry, we've suspended the thing. And I don't know. It's a weird thing. You don't actually know what you're like getting into from a security perspective, which is a terrible assumption, right? As you're signing a contract that says you don't really get to see the security of what you're buying. And we can delist you at any time.
Yeah.
Right.
Also forget about privacy, about everything basically.
Yeah, really anything that's like
Yes.
valuable or disruptive. We're gonna delist you, and here's after fart coin comes fuck coin, right?
Yeah, that's why I think fart coins are very pleasant for them, right? So they're not about any risks about privacy. So absolutely harmless farts, basically.
Yeah. So I've always like wished there was some mechanism to say, okay, well, there's a lot of like, if you're a fair launch project, right, you automatically launch in a market that has a ton of friction where you're basically not going to get listing until you can pay whatever you need to pay, right? And there are some exchanges that I've talked to that are like, hey, are you post token generation event? And I said, well, we're a coin, not really a token. And they say,
What's your contract interest, Joe?
Yeah, and oh, we don't really want to do that unless you're going to give us like internal allocation of your supply. It's like, oh, do you know how proof of work works? This idea of fair launch cryptocurrencies. Because we're in a weird space. There's a lot of language. I don't know of any commodity in reality where it's like we had multiple seed rounds, but we're actually a commodity, right? It is what it is.
So I do. Question: how's that work with I mean, let's take Doge for a minute, right? So let's say you're saying the tooling isn't great or the infrastructure isn't great for Doge nodes and those kind of things. So let's that burden's going to go to the guards, right? Every guard is going to have to figure out, what node they want to run, how they're going to set it up, if they're going to use a public one, if there's a public one, or run their private. But the question is, so when chains like let's say Doge, oh yeah.
So with Doge is kicking our ass, right? There's no other way to say it. Just because rate limits are super strict. So we actually had to design a new module for a multi-resource backend. Right? Like Doge became like an engineering challenge to say, okay, well, if we want this, to meet like the specifications and expectations of all of our other implementations, we're actually going to have to do some special engineering. So we're all Doge devs now. At the end of the day.
Is there a Doge DAO already, Joe?
No.
So my question is, so you're talking about exchanges delisting things, and I can understand. You can see it both ways, right? The cost effectiveness of keeping the infrastructure and the security risk for a chain that has very little movement anymore is a risk for the exchange in there. But also you can see it as a money-making endeavor, as the more the threat of delisting is, the more the chain is going to be used, the more money maybe the chain will fork over to the CEX. So I get both.
I look at it a little bit differently, to be honest. I think that what's been happening in the space is since the emergence of DeFi, transaction volume has moved away from the central exchanges and onto DEXs, right? And so what happens is, if you look at the DEX volume, 5 years ago versus today, the growth curve on that is a magnitude higher than the actual internal volume of exchanges. And so rather than, saying, okay, well, we can be like entry points into these different networks, and they said, no, we're going to try to directly compete. And so then they start listing, whatever is popular for the day on DEXs. And that's a losing proposition. But, the real interesting thing is going to be, just how rails change in the next 5 years in our industry, right? Like if, we're already starting to slowly see this ability for people to move from their bank to chains directly, right? And at that point, I don't see much use or utility for exchanges beyond like representing mechanism to hold assets for users. Like they become like a custodial venture rather than, you know, more of like an active like trade engine market, which even then, you know, I don't know how, other than look, you know, let's say liquidity that they've already collected, I don't see why they're any different than any other type of like OTC desk that people could potentially go to. So I think it's an old idea that hopefully at some point is just less popular, and things are trending that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, you see these exchanges going to more like their aim is to keep the funds on the exchange. So like Mexi creating casino kind of things, and Avalanche creating their own kind of side chains and sub chains to keep people on their system. So yeah, but my question I was trying to get to is, I feel like with the guards, you know, if we're going to take a different approach than central exchanges, where we're looking at each project individually, and we're not looking at the interoperability, we're not looking about connecting everybody like roads and bridges. So I feel the guards, in order to not say, okay, if we onboard a chain, and in 2 years that chain starts having very little transaction going through Rosen Bridge, or the chain itself is, you know, lower, do we look at it as, okay, as a guard, this node is quite a burden to run now, considering there's no money coming in to support running that node. We're going to prune it? Or do we look at it as, okay, the collective of the interoperability and the network we're creating with Rosen balances out? Because we may have Ethereum, we may have Cardano that's giving a lot of volume to Rosen, to fund the guards, to fund the watchers. And that will take care of the smaller chains, perhaps at the cost of losing, you know, that balance of money there between the two. But the benefit is that we're keeping this network alive between all chains and giving a fair shot. So I'm wondering how that discussion is going to go, or how that mindset's going to go among the guards or the watchers for that kind of thing.
Well, I think one thing that is a constant disappointment in the crypto space is that words don't really mean anything. Right. I've even been in, you know, meetings where they're like, oh, you know, coins and tokens, they're basically the same thing. And it's like, yeah, they're just letters for people to, you know, speculate on, which is, you know, terrible for a peer-to-peer network. Right. I do think that there's a lot of benefit in trying to create an alignment for, I'm not even going to say marketing. I'm just going to say education. Right? Because marketing, I don't know. Talk is cheap and execution is priceless on chain, right? So I do think like there's a lot of things out there that oftentimes people don't really explore beyond the 5-minute chart, right? And they tend to, like, there's a mentality in the space that you just look at the letters and they're all kind of the same thing, where there's a variety of different assets. I would love to see more education, more content, etc. long term, not just like from within the Rosen team, but from kind of the infrastructure around. Like if you're going to be a watcher on a network, it's, you know, kind of value alignment for you to, you know, talk about the what, the why, etc. Right. And I do think that if you look at one of the I don't know, biggest failures of education in the crypto industry, I would say a lot of it is exchange, right? They're the first point of like public access, and, you know, usually it's just garbage.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, also I think yeah, it's very interesting and to the best of my knowledge, quite unique thing, right? To have those kind of DePIN products like Oracle pools, like Gold Oracle and Rosen Bridge network, right? Where people can, like everyone, right, can earn some tokens just by letting some software run on a computer. And that's, I think, still super undervalued.
Yeah, Kushi and Joe, we have a ton of watchers, right? We have hundreds of watchers out there between the two chains or something like that. You'd think with that kind of amount of people actively running machinery to benefit a network, these people would be the loudest mouthpieces out there, promoting cross-chain interoperability, preaching Ergo to everybody, preaching Roots and Bridge. But it's interesting. At what point can we convince these people that the more that they, it's not just set and forget with these kind of things. You're running a tool that is directly dependent on your participation and your promotion of it. So I hope to see that. I feel like it's somebody baking bread and selling it and never putting a sign out of their shop that they're selling bread, kind of thing.
Well, a lot of bridges in the crypto space are designed to be, optimistic to basically offset computational cost, right? And the idea with Rosen is let's move computational costs to another layer, spread it out across a set of actors, and then create an incentive for them to run, that part of our system. So yeah, I kind of look at it in my own weird way as like your verification mining, right? And I would hope that as things take off, that kind of grows in popularity because it is something that as Rosen sees more activity, hopefully those verification miners earn more. I do know that one thing that we've done that is not popular so far is we have avoided stablecoins, right? And the reasoning behind that is if you have a foundation that can be frozen, seized, etc., you cannot really honestly claim that it's backed 1-to-1, right? Because that's subject to change at any time based on the whims of a central actor that you don't control.
Yeah.
That's something that people do get pretty excited about, this idea of freeze and seize stables, but I see that as one of the most underappreciated risks that's not really priced in. And I don't know. Let's see how that evolves as regulations evolve, but that's certainly a weird stack.
Yep, but then you can bring something like USDM, right? Which is feasible. Zano has Freedom USD, but yeah, it's quite new thing.
A little weird.
So could be risky per se, because most of such private stable coins failed, like having the Zephyr problem and so on. Yeah, just because of some bugs and so on.
Yeah, and I would love to see Dexy USD at some point.
You mean private version of it?
No, I mean we're gonna launch Dexy Gold, right? I think at some point we could update the Oracle and play around with newer versions of
the Dexy USD possible, but let's see. So tomorrow we'll have a call with Dan. So yeah, let's see. So what's our plans there in regards with Dexy Lithium and so on. Then Dexy Silver, right? Need to get some clarity here, and then Dexy USD we can launch. Well, we need a little bit of input here.
It'd be good to see Dexy Gold in the wild anyway, to be honest.
Like some managing efforts for the updated Oracle pool, and then launching Dexy USD. It's quite straightforward, I believe. Just a different Oracle, and the contracts are the same basically.
What are what are the chances of running multiple data points on Oracle 2.0 so that the XG Gold people could also report USD? Or no, it's literally it has to be, or more security-wise, should be separate oracles?
I don't know actually how to say about security, but also so if it will be gold pool also delivering QSD, then yes, CQSD bank to be updated. But yeah, if we are going to update the current USD pool to version 2, then yeah, well, the bank can continue to work as is. So yeah, it's probably better to update the pool, right? To try to testnets pool update in the first place. So yeah, please reach me if interested. And yeah, there is a Telegram group on that where we can now revive efforts to get DEX USD and so on.
All right. So Joe, back to the meetup real quick. We're almost we ran over everything again in the SIGs group, Joe Kushti, and we've got mostly a finalized schedule, but not quite to release it. We might take one more stab at it on Sunday, and then put it out into the wild along with both signups again as a reminder. But I'm excited. It's going to be fun. I will try to. We're going to try to stream as much as we can. And Joe, I like what you said about getting people like DuckPools involved, even though they're not coming. I think if we create a hybrid event to where in between, so for online people, there will be 12 hours of pure conversation and pure presentations. To the people in person, it'll be just the 4 or 5 presentations that we do. And in between the spaces, like when we do the hike, do the dinner, do the lunch, we can have people like Kras come in and jump in and do the online part presentation about DuckPools. So I think that brings a good point that we can probably try to do that. So to the outside viewer not at the event, they'll have a good 5, 6, 7 hours of straight talking from Ergo from those kind of people. So yeah, great point, Joe. We'll try to get that to happen.
I would love to give open source developers a platform to speak and address the public. It's honest when you go to a crypto event and it's like, okay, well, what do you do? I basically build open code, and then it's like, okay, well, you can pay 10, 20, sometimes 30,000 for a booth. That's not like the most attractive exchange, but it is what it is.
Christy, any luck? You still thinking about coming? You head to the consulate yet?
We'll check in July.
In July, okay. All right, that'd be amazing. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, so cannot check earlier. What's possible there? Let's see.
Yeah.
Then yeah.
Christy, what's happening in the DevDAO? What's happening in the Ergo development ecosystem?
A lot of things. So there is a need to release 6.0 finally. So yeah, there is an new code for 5.0.27, and so 5.1 somewhat new release also, right? So hopefully can be done around Monday, right? So well, it's finalized, and yeah, please help with testing. So yeah, I will test on 1 or 2 nodes. And then yeah, well, 6.0 hopefully will be released next week, maybe closer to the end of the week, if no more issues will be found. So last week Dusek found some consensus, possibly critical vector to split the 5x and 6x nodes, but yeah, it's hardly exploitable probably. You need to do proof of work on two different blocks basically. But yeah, well, anyway, better to fix all those vectors. So yeah, it's done now. So hopefully it's the last issue, and yeah, so we are good to go. And then yeah, well, we need still to set activation dates. So currently I'm thinking about something like June 25th to July 1st. And then, yeah, in July, we can start to deploy sub blocks supporting nodes into the public testnet as well. So yeah, it would be good to mix nodes not updated like yours, maybe mining nodes, and also new nodes with subblock support, right? To see how it would take place in the mainnet as well. All right, so yeah, well, I'm currently doing some fixes and optimizations with subblocks. And well, hopefully in the next few days there will be another DevNet update, and then yeah, well, we can start releasing maybe versions since the public testnet, right? Like 6.5 maybe. Let's see. Still not sure about versioning here. And then yeah, there will be a need to formalize security, right, and so on, and well, discuss designs with people around. And yeah, then let's see what could be mainnet activation date about. Then also published Sigma chains refactoring plan, right? And so it seems it's actually not so much work to do to start at least some merged mine sidechains, right? The simplest option actually. And then, yeah, well, think about support for dedicated Sigma chains. So, yeah, it seems there is some interest here, right? And then, yeah, it's also a lot to think how to scale it and how to organize development. So, we'll publish some thoughts on that. Hopefully in coming days, but let's see. So also thinking which videos to do for Ergoversary. So probably there will be two videos, one about subblocks and so on, and another one is about, yeah, the end game for crypto and of course the charts. And yeah, I think the progress is good in regards with development. Probably the bigger issue now is to well, find some enthusiasts, right? So using tech for real, like you know, like brick.
Brick. Hell yeah, brick. I tell you, we had to cut those kids off. We had to stop it because kids were. We had to just freeze brick collection or distribution because kids were going out during cleanup on the Milstein plate behind me, and just taking everybody's scrap papers and trying to turn them in for more brick, even though they weren't their plots. So we had to be like, yeah, it's done for the semester, guys. Oh, that was funny. Let's see, we got, oh yeah, let me mention too, guys. I put it in chat, 15,000 ergs have been collected so far for the raffle for the fiat on-ramp, the US fiat on-ramp. 67.99 ERG to go. Now, I'm not calling out all you people that keep asking when US access, but it has to be. I'm looking at the numbers here. There are 1,400 tickets. There's 94 backers. In my whole lifetime here at Ergo, I think there are way more than 94 people that have bitched about not having US access. So what are you guys doing? Put your money where your mouth is, donate to this damn raffle, and let's get it taken care of, all right? Get it done. I'm sure you've heard thousands of users bitch about US access, guys, right? You've been here longer.
Yeah, you got to use HQ's new chat. That way there's a cost to whining.
Yeah, that's a good idea. HQ should run it through AI before it pops up the wallet. And if he notices it's a whining post, then he should charge triple for the transaction. That'd be ideal. Mark, we're marketing, but that's us. I just talked about watchers and how they should be promoting the chain and how they should be engaging more. Great. All right, we got some questions, guys? You want to see if we got some questions?
Yeah, let's go through. That's why we're here.
Let's see, some chats, not really. Paul starts asking for time frame for how do you pronounce this? Banksa, I guess. On-ramp integrations. I do not know. That'd be a question for Glasgow. Pop it in the chat. Joe's no longer paying attention to EF shenanigans.
Yeah, I'm not.
Ask anybody on the EF. That'd be MG Pi or Glasgow. They'd be able to get back to you on that kind of thing. Let's see. Mark's asking more about Doge. He's saying, since Doge is a fork of BTC, why was development different? Or has Doge implemented different tooling that Rosen has to interact with that's different from BTC?
No, it kind of has to do with like data collection, scraping the chain, right? So you have the blockchain, then you have infrastructure that's kind of wrapped around the chain that's constantly calling it and reading the chain, putting it into kind of a better format, right? And so a lot of that infrastructure around Doge itself is pretty strict, right? They have pretty tight rate limits, and so then it becomes hard to extract a lot of data from Doge because the infrastructure doesn't really support that.
All right. Zurich says that sometimes they hallucinate that Doge becomes an Ergo sidechain. Let's see. We got anybody else? They're asking about Keystone implementation. That would be through, I haven't heard anything. You hear anything through that, Joe, for the finals of that? Christy, anything from the dev DAO?
Keystone, yeah, let me check the chat. So some fresh messages there. 1 second, Keystone.
Joe Byron says you've abandoned us. I don't think Joe's abandoned us, guys. Joe's one of those that are still in chat, still hanging around, still answering questions. It's just a timing thing. He likes to sleep in past 6 a.m. Colorado time.
Yeah, when the AMAs are at 6 a.m., there's a certain incentive where I just kind of don't want to look at the screen like an idiot, I need some time to warm up.
Here we go, Joe. This is for you from Ursa Minor. Can a token like Rosen have sorry, go for it. Go for it, Christy. You got an update?
So yeah, for Keystone, yeah, seems there is some chats. Yeah, something about USB feature Keystone connection entry. So yeah, it seems some parts still under implementation, but yeah, most of it done, I believe.
Nice. All right, let's see. Ursa Mine is saying, can a token like Rosen have a bigger market cap than ERG? It's a good question for both of you.
I don't know. I think that relative to what it offers, ERG is very mismatched based on, the rest of the crypto market, right? That's my opinion, especially as someone who's dug through different stacks and the kind of working with interoperability between chains. I think a lot of it is more, maybe as an open community, we're not as good at, like talk and hype and marketing, but I don't know. I like off chain, like promises or talk is cheap and honor is priceless, right? And I would say on chain, marketing is cheap as hell, but execution is priceless. And I think we do a pretty damn good job in terms of execution.
From the best, 100%.
Execution, research, implementation. I think we punch way above our weight. So I would say that the mismatch there is probably Ergo itself, and that is what it is. Maybe it's a function of awareness. I think that's probably the largest. Access is definitely something as well. That's a struggle. But when you have something that's some vibe coded white paper with some vibe coded shit that's for $1 billion, that's not even like real. The markets, there's a certain, I don't know, belief that, the market is always, right. But then it's also always changing. So I don't know. To be honest, for most of the time so far with Rosen, I haven't really been tracking the token too much. I've been focusing on execution, right? Just because I would rather there be like software. I like that when I don't know, when I joined the crypto space, it was about like, okay, we're going to have this distributed network and then we're going to have distributed software on top of a distributed network. And so that's really been more my focus than, I don't know.
Number go up.
Yeah. I feel like an idiot if I talk too much about something that doesn't exist. Right. I don't, maybe that's me, but, I think that the execution side is the most important thing I can contribute. We do have some open like discussions and proposals in the Paideia DAO, and I'm hoping that the community is paying attention and is going to give feedback. Like I sometimes I drop ideas and it's like the best thing I hope for is just feedback. Like I'd love to hear like, hey, Arminio, this is a very stupid idea, and this is how to make it better. I'd love that. So feel free to like, I don't know, refine it.
And the first part of that question, Joe, he was targeting essentially if Rosen gets bigger than ERG, what's that say for the security of ERG? Like Ergo, will that, in my personal opinion, I think those things go hand in hand. I don't really see Rosen getting out of hand compared to Ergo where what's it called? Where the hash of ERG is so far down. I personally think they go hand in hand.
I don't think long term that makes too much practical sense, but maybe in crypto sense, I mean, weird shit happens every day. But I do think that one thing that we haven't really discussed long term with Rosen is this potential to take a lot of the stable coins that we've been playing with for years on Ergo and putting them into new environments, right? And I think that once as we continue to iterate, perhaps Gluon, scales well, perhaps Dexy scales well, etc., that we have the ability to, offer some unique value propositions into other ecosystems, especially as kind of the centralized stables become more regulated, more monitored, more AML, KYC, more, of the kind of old banking system coming into play, which I think is probably inevitable looking at how, bills are, like legislation is advancing. So I think one unique thing about Ergo is we are kind of gray. Nobody's heard of us, which is a certain advantage, right? We have a lot of things that just people aren't tracking, and I think that kind of gives us some room to play around.
Yeah, and that's how you can actually, I don't know, play and try what can scale, right? Like Bitcoin was in shadows also before the WikiLeaks blockade moment, right? So when WikiLeaks got cut from Visa, MasterCard, and so on. And then, yeah, it was the first probably big marketing campaign for Bitcoin, actually. So yeah, well, with the tech stack, maybe it's about time, right, to get also some big marketing campaign of that kind.
All right, let's see what else we have. Canon posts for people. There's a free play sponsored by the SIGs today at 5 p.m. UTC in Cyberverse. If you guys haven't played Cyberverse in a while, hop back in. I mean, they're still doing update after update after update. Very, very cool game. Multi-chain, Cardano, Ronin, Ergo. But you don't really notice when you go in the game. That's the cool thing about it. So hop on there, free play sponsored by the SIGs. What else? JL says, I hope Joe still loves us. Zoe says, Joe, can you guys speak about liquidity and a hole on Rosen Bridge? Before you do, let me just remind people that the Padilla discussions are up. I'm going to post them in chat right now. Please go, please chat, and look at the discussions. Engage the people. I see, there's 2 comments on Treasury Proposal number 1. So that's good. At least somebody's kind of chatting about it. I just put it in chat. Please go there, talk about it. But yeah, sorry, go for it, Joe. Can you speak about liquidity in a hole on Rosen Bridge?
Sure. A large part of our focus thus far has just been base scaling across chains, right? And one thing that we definitely need to play catch up on in terms of like access, which Rosen at the end of the day is infrastructure, right? I think it would be great to see Rosen integrated into more wallets and different ecosystems. That way, the like user barrier to use it is lower. I do think that, continued dApp partnerships is really important. But, one thing that I think sometimes is overlooked is capital flows to where it's respected, right? I think that's a good like starting point. And, let's say we have access to Bitcoin, right? That is a great starting point. Then it's a question of saying, okay, it's ease of access plus incentive, right? And, I do think that having more incentives, across applications for liquidity is going to be quite an important part of how Rosen scales. Now, as like the team, one thing that we see in a lot of infrastructure is, you say, okay, well, we built this, and then we go find, 1 or 2 entities that basically hold 95% of the value of the bridge. There's a lot of bridges around that, like more or less, it's a couple of large funds, I'm going to say, kind of farming everybody, right? And, that is, I guess, good for really rapid growth and TVL and bridges, but, it also is something where it's like dependent on, select few. And I've always hoped that with Rosen, we create something unique in terms of like, open specs, and we scale first more laterally into different ecosystems, different chains. And, as we do that, it gains in a certain like popularity and marketing, etc. comes, once there's something to execute on, right? And sometimes crypto is very backwards where, you have massive liquidity for a promise, right? You have massive liquidity in a project that's like, hey, we might build something. It's closed source and hopefully we deliver it to mainnet. And there have been times where it's like, they quote unquote run out of money or quit and they don't even, like open source what they did do. So how do you like know there's even work there? I don't know. Right. So again, I've always thought that if you want to look at like organic growth, execution has to come first for long-term sustainability. That's not popular in the crypto space, but I do think that it opens us up to like this potential where, at any moment, Rosen could get marketing and then we have like the foundation to actually make that scale. And I do want to play around with things, right? It's like, okay, well, if we, support Monero, I think that would be pretty cool. If we, back end a lot of the exchange layer twos, it'd be a little funny to relist Monero. But from a marketing perspective, that's like not, it's not my strong suit. I think that the most important thing is just to have solid execution. And then, you have something to market. Because how many crypto narratives have people heard where it's just like drum beats, oh, this is so sexy, this is amazing, da da da. And then at the end of the day, the narrative changes, right? And it's like, well, what actually got delivered? What can we execute here? And I get tired of that. I don't know, maybe I've been in crypto too long where it's like your white paper and your marketing is cheap, execute. And then you have something that, if it's done well, it'll last. And if it's open source, people can make it better.
Yeah. Grayson wants some clarity, some more clarity. He wants to hear from Kushti real quick. Maybe that's the last one. About the security hash if Rosen gets above Ergo. Essentially, he's saying, can the market cap of all tokens on Ergo exceed the market cap of ERG? And if so, does that compromise security? Is the answer different in proof of stake networks? Kushti?
But how? I don't think so. So even more in the long term, big market cap of tokens also does mean a big amount of storage rent, right? Which is increasing security actually. So here is dynamics maybe different from other blockchains, right? Because of storage rent. But here, tokens do contribute in the long term. Actually, already contributing to the security budget, right, of mining. So just in recent weeks, so there were like thousands of CQSD and means of CRSV collected, and so on, like old NFTs, right, which can be sold on auctions and so on. So yeah, with time, a big total market cap of tokens is actually good and adding to the security, I think. So yeah, here Ergo is quite unique, right? So it's different from, I don't know, from like every other blockchain because of Demorush component, which is adding a new variable in the mining security budget equation.
Mm. And it's weird. I was reading through I think they call it the Clarity Bill. which is some legislative bullshit in the United States that they're talking about. But it seemed as though it shifted the incentives. It's basically how are we going to distribute like regulatory oversight of these, new digital assets. And it did seem to create an incentive for app chains, which maybe people were around in like 2017 when there was like I don't know, let's just say a lot of great looking white papers and a lot of promises sold and then shit execution. And then it, kind of created this fear of like, oh, well, maybe everything needs to be in L1. And so, this idea of like application specific chains kind of popped up. And I do think that, having proof of work as like a base is a great thing to point to in terms of like, it's an actual like fair launch commodity versus, in the crypto space. I don't really know how you spin the narrative that it's like, oh yeah, we seed around 80% of supply, but it's a commodity, right? That's, some mental gymnastics, but it is what it is. So I do think that there's probably going to be a growing use case for like application specific merge mine chains. And if we can create a package to where that's easily deployable, we just add to the security budget of Ergo and we, create some cover for people in certain, jurisdictions that want to play around with Ergo itself.
Yeah, not that hard to do that even.
Yeah.
I mean, from what we do have at the moment, it's not a long path even. So, well, it's possible to run some matched mind sidechain in somewhat like weeks.
Yeah, I would just say, as the mice, we need to be aware of the cat. Have new tactics to deploy, right? And I think that increasingly that'll be a powerful tactic.
If there are a couple of developers and so on. So yeah, well, even one maybe in a few weeks. Yeah, but well, with knowledge, right, of Sigma Rust and so on. Sigma and then yeah, Sigma Rust maybe. Yeah, yeah. Quite doable, I think, and yeah, it's like a good direction, right, to explore.
Well, guys, it's 10 o'clock my time. 2 o'clock UTC. It's quitting time.
Do you need to run to some meeting?
Every time, because I don't know how it works out. Every freaking time.
All right. Okay.
We'll have more reports next week on a finalized schedule for the event meetup. And guys, again,
yeah, and also
the damn raffle.
We will have anniversary on July 1st, it seems. So yeah.
Yes.
We will share some details.
Andy just shared a big list of videos we went through to try to figure out what videos can be put out there. So that's going to be exciting. I'm going to meet up with Dan and try to meet up with Allison as well, and NBR, and get some China finance and as well as some Winter Protocol and why Ergo was amazing and make something like Palmera possible. So those are just two of the many videos that we'll see on Ergoversary that are new.
Awesome.
Including yours, Kushti.
All right. Nice, yeah. Okay.
All right, everybody.
So, yeah, stay tuned.
Have a good one.
Ciao.